What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video, I want to review my Glock 20 Gen 4 10mm semi-automatic handgun. It has a 4.6-inch barrel. So when you get your Glock 20 Gen 4, it comes with this Glock case here. So here's the Glock 20 Gen 4 chambered in 10mm auto. I have this Olight Balder Mini attached to it, and I have these Hogue grips, which I absolutely love. Okay, this thing is awesome. It makes the grip on this Glock 20 just so much better. I highly recommend this Hogue grip. It just slides right over. It's a little bit tough to get on, but once it's on, it's not going anywhere. And if any of you guys have ever shot any Smith & Wesson Magnum revolvers, they use the Hogue grips on them, and this reminds me of my Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum or my Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum Performance Center. They got the Hogue grips and they just feel so good. But I changed out the factory sights for some Trijicon Tritium night sights, and they're so much better. They're made of aluminum and not plastic like the stock sights are. But for the most part, I'm keeping this one stock. I'm not going to change the barrel. I'm not going to mess around with anything. This is just going to stay the way it is like this. And for now, this is my wilderness carry gun. You could EDC this. It's not super huge. You know, you could easily fit this in a fanny pack or an inside the waistband holster. But for me, this is my woods carry gun, and I think it's great. It's a great firearm. I'm not a huge Glock fanboy, but I do think they work. I'm not somebody who thinks that Glocks are these miracle firearms that are indestructible and they're the best thing since sliced bread or since the wheel was invented. I don't think that at all. I think this is like the Honda Civic of pistols. All right, it's reliable. It can take a beating, but I wouldn't say it's the most reliable or the best. Okay, there's a lot of hype that surrounds these firearms, and a lot of people think that because police departments use them or because the military uses them that they're somehow special or better than other types of firearms, and that's not necessarily the case, guys. Glocks are cost effective, and that's why a lot of law enforcement agencies use them, because they only cost $500, give or take $100, you know. So they can outfit a whole police force with Glocks much cheaper than a lot of other firearms, and they have proven themselves to be reliable. So this is definitely a good handgun. The one thing I noticed about it is that it's difficult to get the full velocity and full power of a 10mm out of this handgun. Okay, it does have a 4.6-inch barrel, so it is a pretty long barrel, but for whatever reason, with premium barrel loads like the Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman, I can't get the 1200 feet per second golden velocity with the 220 grain hardcast. I get just under it. So you will get like 25 to 50 feet per second less velocity in many cases than what's advertised on the box, okay? And you will struggle to get 700 foot-pounds out of this handgun. You're probably going to get around 650 foot-pounds at the most, and that's based on my real-world testing. I've done multiple chronograph tests with this firearm with all different kinds of ammo, and this will top out at around 650 foot-pounds with this factory barrel in here. Obviously, if you upgrade the barrel to a longer barrel, then yeah, you're going to get more velocity, but you will struggle to reach that 700 foot-pound golden energy number of the 10mm. But still, 650 foot-pounds is a lot of power, and I think it balances well. The only thing is, because it is a little bit on the light side, because it is a plastic frame handgun, it will flip quite a bit with true 10 millimeter loads. Okay, I'm talking about 10 millimeter hunting loads, 10 millimeter bear loads, full power 10 millimeter loads, not target loads. You're going to get a good amount of flip. Okay, it's going to flip quite a bit. So just keep that in mind. If you think you're going to be doing rapid firing with this thing with bear loads, think again. I mean, you could try, but your groups are going to be huge. So you will get a good amount of flip, all right, because it does have a plastic frame. So, you know, on one side, it's got that plastic frame, so it's lighter. But on the other side, because it's lighter, it's going to flip more, okay? So it's definitely a great handgun. I recommend this for pretty much everybody. I think a Glock 20 Gen 4 in 10 millimeter to me is as important to own as a 12 gauge shotgun and an AR or a good bolt action deer rifle. I think it's something that every American should have. I think the 10 millimeter is much better than a 9 millimeter, with the exception of concealed carry. But for general purpose use, a pistol like this, you can't beat it, you know. It's got a lot of punch, good velocity. You can shoot heavy bullets out of it. It's just very versatile, much more versatile than a 9 millimeter, okay? You can actually hunt deer with this thing if you wanted to. You can stop a bear charge with this thing. And in addition to that, you can use it for home defense. It does come standard with a 15-round magazine, okay? But you can get yourself a 30-round magazine, okay? Which I have multiple 30-round magazines for SHTF. And with the 30-round magazine, I mean, that is just awesome. In my opinion, that's one of the biggest benefits of a Glock 10 millimeter over other 10 millimeters, is that you can get these 30-round magazines for it, which to me is just a huge advantage for multiple situations, whether it's for wilderness carry, whether it's for your bug out bag, SHTF. You can just literally stick one of these in your backpack and you got 30 rounds of 10 millimeter all in just one spot. And you just slam that sucker home and look at all that firepower you got. So Glock 20 Gen 4, I highly recommend it. The one thing I don't like about the Glock 20 or any Glock is this trigger. I think this trigger is just crap. I'm sorry, guys. I know there's a lot of Glock fanboys out there, but I just absolutely despise this trigger. It just feels like a toy gun. And another thing that I noticed with a lot of shooting is that my trigger finger would actually get a little bit sore because of that safety here, okay? All Glocks have that trigger safety, meaning that the trigger won't squeeze unless you push down on that tab, okay? And from repeatedly pushing on that tab, because it's like kind of a hard plastic, my trigger finger would get sore, okay? Because it sticks out quite a bit there, and you have to get your finger in there, and when you do that a lot, especially with recoil and stuff, your finger will get a little bit sore. But I really don't like the triggers on these. But other than that, I think it's a great firearm. I think it's a great general purpose firearm. I think for the woods, for SHTF, home defense, I think it's a no-brainer. And the price, you're probably going to get this for around $600 now. And this video was filmed in August 2022. And that's about what you're going to pay as of 2022. I think $500 or $600 for this pistol is a good price in my opinion. Good parkerizing. They have that patented parkerizing on their slides. So the barrel is polygon rifled, and the barrel is a little bit on the thin side. So one thing you'll notice is if you shoot a lot of rounds, the groups will start to open up as the barrel heats up. And as far as accuracy goes, I would say the accuracy is decent, but this is a loose tolerance firearm, okay? This thing is made with loose tolerances just like an AK-47. And the reason why is looser tolerances help the firearm to operate in dirty conditions, and they're just more reliable when they have looser tolerances. So don't expect pinpoint tack driving accuracy with this thing, but you should get at least 1-inch groups at 25 yards or less. I mean, I've gotten really tight groups with this pistol. I actually, with a good rest, I was getting hole-to-hole groups at 10 yards, okay? So it is capable of great accuracy, but once this thing heats up, the groups really open up because the barrel is pretty thin, as you can see. I didn't have any issues with the polygon rifling. A lot of people say that your Glock could blow up if you use hard cast bullets in it. Because of the polygon rifling, the lead will deposit and it could create an overpressure situation. I never had that issue, and I've shot multiple hard cast loads, especially the Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman. I've shot probably hundreds of those, going back and forth between that and jacketed bullets in the same day, and I never had any issues. But that's just my experience, but some people have reported that these polygon barrels can blow up with hard cast loads, and I never had that issue, but I only use high quality hard cast loads. Like from Buffalo Bore, they use the high quality hard cast, which is cast to the proper Brunel hardness so the lead doesn't deposit so much in the barrel. If you use cheaper cast bullets or soft cast bullets, then you're going to deposit a ton of lead. You definitely don't want to shoot any kind of medium cast or soft cast bullets. You want true hard cast bullets from high quality manufacturers, okay? But excellent handgun, guys. Highly recommend it. That's pretty much it for this one. I'm going to attach some clips of me shooting this at the range, so you can see the recoil and the muzzle blast and the accuracy. And all of my 10mm content is in my 10mm playlist, and I'll leave a link to that playlist at the top right corner of this video. But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. All right, guys. Buffalo Bore 10mm Heavy Outdoorsman. Supposed to have a muzzle velocity of 1,200 feet per second and a muzzle energy of 700 foot-pounds. This is a 220 grain hard cast, so let's see what kind of velocity we get out of a Glock 20 Gen 4 with a 4.6 inch barrel. Let's see what happens here, guys. $11.12. 11.51. 11.28. 11.20. 11.39. 'All right, guys, so now we got the Underwood ammo version of the Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman. This is a 220 grain hard cast with an advertised muzzle velocity of 1,200 feet per second and a muzzle energy of 700 foot-pounds. Let's see what we actually get out of my stock Glock 20 Gen 4 4.6 inch barrel. $11.54. 11:31. 11:32. 11:24. And that casing just hit me in the face. 11:31. All right, guys, so now we're going to move on to the buffalo bore. Dangerous game, 10 millimeter. This is 190 grain monolithic metal solid copper alloy bullet, and it has an advertised muzzle velocity of 1,200 feet per second and a muzzle energy of 600 foot-pounds. Let's see what we actually get out of my Glock 20 Gen 4 with a 4.6 inch barrel. 11:33. 11:55. 11:71. 11:45. 11:47. All right, guys, so I want to discuss the results of the test with you. I was surprised by the results. I was expecting to be pretty close to the advertised numbers, but actually I was pretty far off with the Glock 20 Gen 4 with the 4.6 inch barrel, which is not a short barrel. 4.6 inches is a pretty decent length barrel for a handgun. So the Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman 220 grain hardcast has an advertised muzzle velocity of 1,200 feet per second and an advertised muzzle energy of 703 foot-pounds. I actually got 1,130 feet per second and 624 foot-pounds, which the Underwood 220 grain hardcast, which is basically a clone of the Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman, has an advertised muzzle velocity of 1,200 feet per second and 703 foot-pounds also. And actually, I got 1,134 feet per second and 628 foot-pounds and 66 feet per second less than advertised and about 75 foot-pounds less than advertised. So pretty similar results with the Underwood 220 grain hardcast and the Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman 220 grain hardcast. Very, very similar results with the Glock 20 Gen 4 with the 4.6 inch barrel. Now, one interesting thing about these two loads is I have done a penetration test, which I plan to upload soon. And if you want to see that penetration test, it's going to be in my 10 millimeter playlist. The Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman, even though it has the same numbers as the Underwood 220 grain hardcast, the Buffalo Bore actually penetrates a little bit more in wood than the Underwood. Even though they're the same projectile, basically, they're both 220 grain hardcasts, and they're both traveling at around the same velocity. The Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman, for whatever reason, outpenetrated the Underwood by just a little bit. So that's pretty interesting. So velocity and foot-pounds don't always equal penetration. And that's something to keep in mind because a lot of people just get caught up in the numbers, and numbers don't tell the whole story. There's a lot of other things that go into penetration, such as the shape of the nose, the ogive, the diameter of the bullet. All these things are important when you're trying to determine the penetration depth of a particular load. Also, the hardness of the bullet. Sometimes you can have one hard cast that's casted slightly harder than another. There's so many things that play into it, but just wanted to share that with you. The Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman did out-penetrate the Underwood in a separate test that I did that I will be uploading soon, even though they're the same exact bullets and traveling roughly the same velocity. And the Buffalo Bore Dangerous Game 190 grain monometal has an advertised velocity of 1,200 feet per second and an advertised muzzle energy of 607 foot-pounds. And the actual muzzle velocity that I got was 1,150 feet per second and 558 foot-pounds, which is 50 feet per second less than advertised and about 50 foot-pounds less than advertised. And for some reason, the 190 grain monometal had less of a difference between the advertised numbers and the actual numbers. Another thing that I found interesting was when I repeated this test with my Rock Island Armory 1911 10mm, which has a 5.5-inch barrel, the Underwood ammo had a much greater gain in velocity with the 5.5-inch barrel than the Buffalo Bore ammo did. And what that tells me is that Underwood ammo uses slower burning powders in their 10mm bear loads, and Buffalo Bore uses a very fast burning powder because with that extra inch of barrel length that the Rock Island Armory 1911 gives me, I really didn't get much gain with the Buffalo Bore ammo, but with the Underwood ammo, I got pretty significant gains just from that extra inch of barrel length. So I'm going to be uploading that test pretty soon, and also I'll be uploading the penetration test with these loads soon. So check those videos out, and I'm also going to do a video comparing the Rock Island Armory and the Glock 20 and comparing the numbers and the penetration. That's going to be a future video, so be on the lookout for that. And so the lesson learned from this test is that if you plan to use a 10mm for bear defense, you should consider getting a handgun that has a 5-inch barrel or preferably a 6-inch barrel. This way you can achieve those golden numbers of the 220 grain hard cast traveling at 1,200 feet per second, which has been proven effective against brown bears in certain situations. Also, a lot of people compare the 357 Magnum to the 10mm, and I still believe that the 357 Magnum has a slight edge over the 10mm in energy, velocity, and penetration, and this test confirms that. And looking at the consistency of these very popular bear loads, we can see that they were all pretty consistent with a slight edge to Underwood, which had an extreme spread of 30 feet per second and a standard deviation of 10 feet per second, while the Buffalo Bore Heavy Outdoorsman and the Buffalo Bore Dangerous Game had extreme spreads closer to 40 feet per second and standard deviations of between 12 and 13 feet per second. So slight edge to Underwood, but it's not really a huge difference. They were all pretty consistent and had very similar results when it came to extreme spread and standard deviation. So that's pretty much it for this test, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful for you. Stay tuned to my channel for more 10mm videos. I plan to do a lot more 10mm ballistics tests and penetration tests. Be on the lookout for my penetration test that I did with this ammo and a bunch of other 10mm ammo. And also be on the lookout for my Rock Island Armory 1911 10mm chronograph test. But that's pretty much it for this one. Thanks for watching. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.